Hello, welcome back to Levant TV Headlines. Heavy clashes continue between Islamic State militants and Kurdish forces near the Syrian border town of Ain al-Arab, with dozens from both sides reportedly killed. US Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel says US and French defense chiefs have discussed the possibility of France taking part in the American-led air war against Islamic State jihadists in Syria. And Australia's Prime Minister Tony Abbott says cabinet has authorized military airstrikes on the Islamic State group in Iraq and the deployment of special forces troops to combat the militants. 7 Libyan soldiers have been killed and 50 wounded in a double suicide bombing and clashes in the eastern city of Benghazi. And the EU has condemned an Israeli plan to build 2,610 new settler homes in annexed East Jerusalem, calling it, quote, highly detrimental to diplomatic efforts for Israeli-Palestinian peace. And now let's have a look at top headlines in today's newspapers in the Middle East. From the UAE, the Khalij Times reports that hundreds of thousands of Muslims began a mass movement yesterday out of the holy city of Mecca towards nearby Mina in western Saudi Arabia at the start of the annual Hajj pilgrimage. The paper also reports that Arab Gulf states have demanded the restoration of government authority in Yemen. From Beirut, the Daily Star reports that former Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri has urged for a speedy resolution to free the more than 20 Lebanese servicemen being held hostage by jihadist militants on the northeast border. The paper also reports that Progressive Socialist Party leader Walid Jumblat is not secretly pushing for the election of MP Michel Aoun for president, denying reports that he had switched allegiances. The Egypt Independent reports that Rashid Al-Ghanouchi, leader of Tunisia's Ennahda movement, told the Algerian-based Al Balad channel that Algerian President Abdelaziz Bouteflika refused the request by Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to consider the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist group. The paper also reports that Palestinian local sources said that a number of buses carrying Israeli settlers stormed the city of Nablus, heading to the tomb of Prophet Yusuf to perform religious rituals. And now the papers in the UK. The Guardian leads Middle East news reporting that the UN-sponsored agreement for the reconstruction of Gaza is facing sharp criticism from senior international officers and NGOs who say it will create a restrictive new monitoring regime for building materials that risks putting the UN in charge of a continuing Israeli blockade. The Independent leads Middle East news reporting that Australian fighter jets will bomb ISIS targets in northern Iraq within days after the government approved airstrikes as part of the US-led military coalition. The paper says Mr. Abbott, the Australian Prime Minister, warned that action in Iraq could be quite lengthy and certainly in months rather than weeks. Also from the UK, The Telegraph leads Middle East news reporting that Turkey's parliament has authorized military action against the Islamic State jihadist group whose fighters have battled their way to the doorstep of a key town across the border in Syria. The paper says the move allows the deployment of armed forces in Syria and Iraq, as well as the transit of foreign forces in Turkish territory for operations against the Islamic State. And now let's have a look at MidEast headlines in international papers. From Germany, the Deutsche Welle leads Middle East news reporting that German Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen observed training exercises in Bavaria, where Kurdish forces are learning to operate the Milan anti-tank guided missile system. The paper says the Kurdish major leading the Peshmerga group issued his thanks to the German Bundeswehr military for providing the weapons, ammunition and training. And finally, the New York Times reports that the United Nations says that more than 5,500 people have been killed in Iraq since an offensive by the Islamic State militant group began in June, including hundreds of minority Yazidis slaughtered en masse. The paper adds that those deaths represent more than half of 9,343 civilians killed in Iraq from January through September. That was it for today. For more updates, visit our website levant.tv. Thanks for watching and bye for now.